So we're talking about the movement of energy in a pyramid, an ecological pyramid or of an energy pyramid. But we can also talk about the movement of toxins. And this is the idea of biomagnification. And it's also another reason why we might want to eat lower on the food chain as versus higher up on the food chain. So this is the accumulation of toxins as you move up the pyramid. These toxins specifically are not water soluble. They also generally cannot be broken down by our body. They could be synthetic, but we can't excrete them. So we can't get rid of them. Say, for example, in our urine, we are unable to urinate them out. And the liver cannot break them down. And so they tend to accumulate, and they tend to accumulate in fats, and they can cause problems in organisms. So if we look at an example of how this looks in a pyramid, here we're looking at DDT. DDT is an insecticide that is used to kill specifically mosquito larvae, that was used really abundantly earlier in the 1950s, when they would spray parks. Even when people were eating at a picnic table, they would spray it for the larvae of the mosquito in order to prevent malaria. The problem with DDT is that it is an estrogen mimic. It is a fat-soluble compound that we cannot break down, and so we tend to store it in our fat. And so once it gets into the food chain, it doesn't leave. And so you'll notice here that the producers have it at a very low concentration. So they might take it in and it's 0.04 parts per million. And then as you move up the food chain, because the consumers eat a lot of producers in order to get enough energy, then the DDT starts to accumulate. Secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, quaternary consumers, it all increases. And so this was actually one of the problems with the conservation of, say, for example, eagles, is that they found that they were being poisoned with this DDT, and it was making specifically their eggshells, the eggshells were thinning, and they weren't able to reproduce. And so it was looking like the eagles were going to go extinct. And so there was a big push, and you might have heard of the person that first came up with this idea of this problem, and her name was Rachel Carson. So she wrote a book called The Silent Spring. And it was very controversial, and she got a lot of backlash from all kinds of people. But in the end, it was a very pivotal book, right? Because it pointed out the problems with these chemicals that we're producing that our bodies cannot either get rid of or break down. And so it starts to accumulate in our bodies. So we have DDT around today that was used a long time ago, right? We also have new chemicals. You might have heard of some of these other ones that biomagnify. Mercury is an example, but also our PCBs. So these are some other examples. And so some of these end up in, like, say, for example, fish. And so this is one of the reasons why it is not a good idea for specifically pregnant women to eat lots of large fish. If you go to the doctor's office, you'll see warning, if you are pregnant, do not eat more than this size of a portion of tuna, right? Or do not eat more than this size of a portion of salmon. So you want to be really concerned, well, not concerned, but you want to be informed about the dangers of eating up on the food chain and this idea of biomagnification.